What is up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We just got a bunch of new information directly from Ashraf Ismail, the creative director, today in an interview. But before we get into all the news and all the new information, please hit the subscribe button. Please like and share. It'll mean a lot to me. And yeah, hit that like, hit subscribe for more Assassin's Creed content, for more content on Assassin's Creed Valhalla as we get closer to release and build the hype. So let's get right into this video. So the Washington Post had an interview with Ashraf Ismail talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, giving us new information or just answering questions that the community had within it. And when we started talking and when the video started, he started talking about how they were, looking at the franchise as a whole, things that we already know, how they're looking at the old and the new and trying to really bring the gap and bridge that gap of old fans and new fans, which every time he talks about it, it makes me super excited because it's just awesome how much he cares about the fans and about the community and how much he's really trying to please everyone and really, give us the fans and give new players an amazing experience. And he said something that really interested me, and he talked about how he was looking at the uniqueness of the first Assassin's Creed, and how new it was and how fresh it was and how there was things that at that time wasn't done, and they want to recreate that in a way to create a uniqueness with this game that fans will enjoy, that really stays true to Assassin's Creed, but it's a new experience that really, fulfills all the needs and desires that us as fans and as gamers, how we want it. And he was just talking about how he wanted to honor the lore and the universe and a bunch of things that we've already been hearing constantly, and what's been really getting the community hyped as it is how much he cares about the community and how much he really wants to make us happy, and how he's really doing his research, and really him and his team and the writers Darby and everyone involved is really going above and beyond to honor what Assassin's Creed means to not only them but to us as fans. And they asked him about the hidden blade, and he even said that in the hidden blade there's clues, which is kind of interesting. How he talked about how the hidden blade, the gems in the hidden blade, if you haven't seen it, there's these green gems in the hidden blade, and he says that those kind of give a clue to where they found it and where it came from, and the history of that blade, which I thought was super interesting. And he mentioned social stealth and a bunch of information that we're going to talk about later on because they go in more depth. But the first context and the first main topic that they talked about was the map size. I know there's been a lot of discussion on if this map is going to be like Odyssey or if it's going to be smaller, and he didn't really give us a clear answer. All he said was that there's both Norway and England, and Norway is huge, and there's a lots of things to do before we get to England, and there's going to be lots of mysteries and lots of activities and content. But he brought up that England is as well just as big, and it has four kingdoms with three major cities, and in those cities there's lots of towns and locations and things to explore. And he says in his own words that the world is extremely impressive. He says he doesn't want to compare the map sizes, but he wanted to focus on the quality of the maps and the content within those maps, which is great to hear. And it really seems that they're focusing on quality over quantity. And maybe this map might be not as big, or maybe or the same size as Origins, maybe a little bigger. But we really see that it says, they were talking about how it has a lot of content, and each content fulfills Eivor's journey. This is something that's going to be brought up a lot throughout this interview, is them talking about Eivor and how everything is being tailored around the story. All the quests, all the activities, even, the gameplay is being tailored to Eivor. And he said that this world has lots of mysteries and surprises, and people could spend hours and hours, but at the same time, if you want to, you can just focus on the narrative, which is, I think it's a hint to how they're going to be handling the level, because I know in Origins and Odyssey some levels were blocked behind level caps and you had to just go out, and they really pushed the exploration and wanted you to do side quests and explore and gain that XP. But we've heard in earlier leaks and earlier rumors how they're taking a different approach to the leveling system, and even Ashraf brought it up himself, how they're taking a different approach and they're not really going you know focus on numbers, and they're focused on a different way of leveling. So I think that's also another hint to how they're going to be doing that if you just want to focus on the narrative and just bum rush through the story, you can. If you want to take your time and explore and do quests and do missions, You can do that as well. It's not going to really affect anything but your enjoyment of the game. After that, he talks about the story in general, and same things that we've heard. He hasn't gotten into too much depth because the game was just announced not that long ago. So I'm not expecting us to get all the information as much as we wanted. But he talks about how Eivor is someone who has ambitions. He's someone who seeks glory, and it's a personal journey of someone struggling with himself versus the community. And that kind of reminds me of Edward in a way from Black Flag. How he's a man who, when the game starts, he's the reason why he's a pirate is to fulfill his own glories, to fulfill his own purpose, to fulfill his own dreams and desires. And as the story goes on, we see that change. We see him grow. We see him, through the assassins, through this conflict that he gets involved in. We see him become a more selfless person, and I feel like they're taking the same route, but instead we're gonna see him struggle with the community. Wanting to fulfill his own ambitions and dreams, but understanding that he has people to take care of. He has a family. He has a whole society, his whole clan with him that he has to take care of and help survive and help grow. And I feel like that's going to be an interesting narrative pull between Eivor and what he wants versus what he needs to do for the greater good and the greater ambitions of the people. They also talked about how Eivor is a third person in this assassin versus Templar conflict. How, kind of like Edward, how we're seeing this conflict from a different perspective, not really from within the groups, but from an exterior view. But they also mentioned how Eivor has an important impact on the assassins and Templars moving forward. This is something that really intrigues me because they're bringing this up a lot. How Eivor, he belongs in this story. He belongs in this universe. How he's gonna have an impact. You're gonna be able to play older Assassin's Creed games and think kind of like how Origins did it. How they really brought meaning to simple things like the leap of faith, and things like the hidden blade and the fingers, and how they really brought that into it, and how you could play older games and really tie it back to like, that's what it means. That has a deeper meaning because in Origins, blah 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 blah. And I feel like they're going the same way. How Eivor is going to have an impact like that. That you can play Assassin's Creed 1 or 2 or all the other ones and really look at it and say, I Eivor's story is echoed through those games. Wow, I just played Valhalla. Now I'm playing the older ones, and now I'm seeing how everything he did impacted. Or if it wasn't for him, Assassin's Creed 1 wouldn't be the way it is. So it's really interesting how they're really doing it, and it really, builds the hype even more because I just want to play this game already. I know it's just been announced, but the way they're talking about it, they're doing everything right. And it's kind of scary because Assassin's Creed hasn't been done this correctly in a long time. And the fact that they're doing it, bringing back Darby, having Ashraf, bringing Jasper Kidd as to do the soundtrack, the goat, the goat who did the original AC2 soundtrack and revolutionized and made the theme for the Assassin's Creed saga franchise as a whole. When you hear Ezio's family from Jesper Kidd, that is Assassin's Creed. People, that is Assassin's Creed. That is the theme. And bringing him back is like, they're doing so much right that it just scares me because it just seems like too good to be true. They also talked about parkour, and they didn't really get too much into it, but he talked about how the world is tailored to parkour, stealth, and combat, and how each location is gonna help one or the other shine. There's gonna be locations that is like gonna help stealth shine or combat shine and parkour shine. And he talked about getting into stealth because they really got in depth with the stealth, how it's tailored to Eivor, and everything that he does, his fighting style, the why he's doing stealth, his parkour, it all goes back to his personality. I know people will be like, oh, but that's not an assassin's version of doing it. Why does he have the hidden blade over his arm and not under it? Well, it's all tailored to him. It's his personality. He's bringing his own flair, his own style, the way he's grown, and how his Viking Norse background kind of made him to be. And I feel like that's really interesting how we're gonna see the original Assassin's Creed formula kind of brought into a new light as a new personality kind of breathed new life into it. So he said that Vikings did stealth and they did do stealth missions, but if they did something in stealth, they later on wanted everyone to know because Vikings were huge on glory and they wanted people to know what they did and the victories that they had. So we're gonna see Eivor, in stealth missions, but we're also gonna see him probably, make a big scene after it, or maybe after he does a stealth mission, he makes a big explosion so that everybody can know what he just did. And maybe it might, might not make all fans happy, but it's gonna be Eivor. It's gonna be his version. It's gonna be the characters. You're gonna feel the character behind all the missions and all the combat and all the stuff. And I think that's really, really interesting how much they're focused on character this time. They also talked how they wanted to give people a new experience, and they wanted to, look back at the social stealth and look back at what's been done and improve upon it and make it, fresh and exciting. And, with the whole hood thing they introduced, now that you can toggle the hood on and off with a button, which is amazing. I've been wanting that forever. But he also said, Ashraf also talked about how it has an effect though on detection. It's more than a cosmetic. And people are going to use the environment to hide in the crowd, and they're going to use you're going to be able to use people in the environment to help you. And maybe the hood is better off in this certain situation. Maybe it's better on. It's going to help. There's a purpose behind it. It's not just, okay, you could do it. It's just, we're just going to have it for, giggles, or you're just going to have it because the fans want it. No, there's a reason why the hood or the cloak, he mentioned there's going to be a hood and a cloak, can be taken on and off. And not only that, the skills that you learn. Ashraf mentioned that very early on, Eivor will meet the hidden ones. It's official now. It's not assassins. It's hidden ones. They're still called that. But these assassins throughout the game, they're going to teach Eivor. He's not just going to be like Alexios or Cassandra, where they know how to do everything in the beginning of the game. And I know they kind of like bypassed it by saying, they're mercenaries, so they know how to fight and all these things. But, mercenaries shouldn't be able to know how to climb huge buildings and jump off and do all these crazy techniques. Fighting maybe, but everything else, I'm not too sure about it. But they're kind of taking an Assassin's Creed 2 approach with this, and how we're gonna see Eivor being trained by these assassins. And I think that's really interesting because Assassin's Creed 2, I don't know if we seen, I think we seen a little bit. They kind of brushed past it in Assassin's Creed 3. They just skipped it and he just knew everything. I think they did like narration, how he's been training, or I think in Unity we just had a quick, mission or two. But they said there's really going to be a focus on how the assassins teach Eivor. Not only, stealth or combat, but other things as well. Maybe that, what they do to him or how they teach him is really going to affect his perspective on the world, and really is what going to lead him to join the assassins later on. And talking about the game, they mentioned, what kind of RPG is it? And Ashraf brought up how there's different types of RPGs, and how, they're focused on the role playing aspect. If you're playing a role, you're playing a character. I know, maybe that's what they're focused on. That with dialogue choices, they said that Eivor is a defined characters, and they wanted to allow players to have a voice, but within that characters, that all things being said or done will be tailored to Eivor, and that's their version of role playing. And they took a fresh look on progression and how gear is going to be unique and can be upgraded, and you can change the look of that gear. How in Origins, where the more you upgraded it, this certain gear set, the hidden blade or the chest piece or anything, the look changed, and it was more prominent in like the DLCs, but they're going that way again. And they mentioned this again, how you could go the whole game with a single gear, and progression is tied to the playstyle. So if how other games where it's like you get more XP if you just go in fully combat versus fully stealth, but now I think they're really balancing it out, and the way the progression works suits, you can have the same amount of progression if you're just doing only stealth or only combat or just rushing through the story or doing all the side missions. They're making it equal for everyone. And they said they're going to go into the more detail later on into this, before release, but that's basically what he said. And he wanted to be able to handcraft this character, to be able to players to be able to handle it and craft this character in a specific or whatever style they wanted to. If you want to do solely, long range, character, or you want to, a more upfront character, the progression suits that, and it's going to be able, everyone's able to play the way they want their Eivor. Yet it's all tied to, that RPG element, which I think is really interesting, and the combat. And he talked a little bit about wanting to nail combat, but something that really interested me, because we've already heard about the dual wielding and the combat and all these other things, but he talked about something that they really want to focus on: the enemies. They really want to make the enemies, interesting. They said that they want you to play hours and hours and hours and still find new enemies and new things to do, rather than just getting used to it and playing, which I think is pretty cool. And he said that they want to make intriguing challenges and enemy varieties that, you know, 20 hours into the game, you're discovering new enemy types, which is, I don't know how they're going to do it, but I trust in Ashraf, and I think it's going to, they're going to pull it off. They also talked about character customization, which I think is, super cool because we know about the hood, and we know about how you can change armor pieces, and you could change, the visuals, like in Odyssey, how you could have a certain gear piece but change the look of it and put another look on it if you like, the stats of one versus the other. I don't know if they're doing stats, but he brought it, you can swap the look. But something that interested me is he said that we can also change color of the hair and the beard, and we can also have, we can dye our hair and we can do all these things. And I thought that's pretty cool because it's something that's never been done with the addition of the war paint and the tattoos and all these other stuff that they're adding to the character customization. And I think that's really interesting. And they later after that they started talking about marketing. And I know people were really unhappy with the gameplay trailer. I didn't really make a video on it because there really wasn't much to talk about, and I wasn't just gonna make a video kind of stretching it or trying to like reach just for content. If I'm gonna make a video on something, it's to really have, I want to at least have something to talk about. And I just personally didn't think that trailer was really anything. It was just a few seconds of just visuals, and we were able to see a little bit of the game, and some things that were interesting, but nothing really much to talk about. Yeah, he just talked about how they just announced this game not that long ago, and to be patient. And I agree with that. I know a lot of people want to see everything. They want to see demos, they want to see this, but they're just focused on building the game. They said they're still polishing it, they're debugging it, and it takes a lot. It really does. If you guys don't know what goes into gaming process, even to like build a demo, it's a lot. I suggest you watch the making of God of War, because there's a whole section how long it took them just to make the demo, and how much stress and how much they went through just to even release like a 5 minute 6 minute demo, because that's separate from the gaming process. That's a whole different team that's working on the specific demo, and making sure it looks nice for the audience, and making sure everything flows perfectly. So it takes a lot. So for people that are angry, and really just want everything now, the game is not coming out till later this year. We have a long way to go. The marketing team, that's Ashraf is not involved in that. So bombarding Ashraf on Twitter or Darby and upset why why you haven't seen more footage or a demo, that's not their job. Ashraf made it clear. He said in the interview, his job is to make the game, not promote it. They have a whole marketing team, a whole marketing group of people that do that, and they want to focus on building the game and finishing it and making it look good, and then so that they can have something to show. And I think that's pretty good. I don't want them to lie and show us something that doesn't represent the game in its entirety, like other games have in the past. And yeah, so he that was kind of where they started wrapping things up, um talking about it and finishing up about marketing and how they're really finishing up the game and debugging it. And they answered a few questions from the chat, skills and mounts. And they didn't really there was a question about modern day, and he didn't really go into it, but he did say that it continues Layla's story, but he didn't want to go into it. Obviously, we're still early on, and they don't want to reveal everything. But yeah, to finish off, this was an interesting interview. There wasn't really much crazy new information, but there was little things here and there that intrigued me, that really little things here and there that really brought things together. And all the information that we've already heard, he cleared some things up and added more details. Again, I'm not expecting everything to be revealed right now. I'm not expecting us to know everything. I think as time goes on, I know there's going to be a Ubisoft reveal in July, so I think that's when we're going to definitely see demos and more information and more on hands-on things, rather than just interviews or little notes from articles here and there. I think we're actually going to be able to see some. So it's not for some time. We still have some time to go. So to finish off, it was a really interesting interview. I think we got a lot of good information. It really cleared some things up, and we still have a bunch of questions, but again, all that is going to be answered in time, so I'm not stressing it too much. But if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this quick recap, because I kind of just went through my notes and just mentioned everything of this interview, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll greatly appreciate it. I know we're having PlayStation revealed tomorrow on Ghost of Tsushima, so I'm definitely gonna make a video on that because I'm super hyped for that game. So if you're excited for Ghost of Tsushima or other games, like and subscribe because I'll be making content not only on Assassin's Creed but on other things as well. And yeah, turn on those post notifications so you know when I upload, so you can be the first ones to see and hear all this new information that's gonna come out when it does. And I'll try to make as much content as possible. So if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe, and I greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one.